It doesn't blink like a plane or drift like a satellite. It hangs there, still, silent and watching. And as December 2024 rolled in, the skies across the United States and even beyond seemed to be holding a secret. Unexplained lights, drones perhaps, or maybe something else. From the windswept plains of Nebraska to the quiet suburbs of Atlanta, ordinary people were met with extraordinary sights. Witnesses watched with growing unease, and when they looked again, the lights were gone. Theories ran wild: military tests, surveillance tech, or could it be something more unsettling, something not of this earth? As reports poured in from across the globe, a familiar chill crept down the collective spine of those watching. After all, it's one thing to hear about unexplained phenomena, but it's another to see it for yourself. What follows is a story of mystery, speculation, and that nagging feeling that something is out there. Join us as we follow the lights, trace the theories, and ask the questions that linger in the cold December air. Who or what is watching us from above? Step into the abyss and welcome to Weird Encounters, a place where the ordinary fades into shadow and the unexplainable comes alive. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and join our ever-growing community of the curious. Your support is the lifeblood that keeps this channel alive. Now, prepare yourself, for what you're about to witness is not for the faint of heart. It started as so many of these things do, with a whisper, just a flicker of light where there shouldn't be one. First one, then another, and then, well, it was hard not to notice. The date, early December 2024. The place, nearly every corner of the United States, from the quiet plains of Nebraska to the bustling suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. The reports poured in like clockwork. People stepping outside to take out the trash, walk the dog, or just get a breath of fresh air were met with something unusual. "I thought it was a plane at first," said Michelle Marbury of Topeka, Kansas. "But it wasn't moving, just hanging there, watching." She's not alone. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people from Colorado to Connecticut have reported similar sightings. Some describe them as swarms, clusters of lights that float in eerie silence. Others, like Tom Sanders of Fort Collins, Colorado, say they've seen single drones hovering alone like sentinels in the night sky. "I've seen satellites, I've seen planes. This wasn't either of those," Sanders told a local news station. "It's not natural, that's for sure." Theories, of course, came next, because that's what people do when confronted with the unexplained. They theorize. Some blame the government. Military testing, speculated a Reddit user in a now viral thread. They're probably practicing with autonomous flight swarms for some new warfare technology. Others reached for more colorful explanations. "It's aliens, no doubt about it," one man declared in an interview with a Denver news station, grinning as he said it, but his eyes told a different story. But here's where it gets more interesting. Local sheriff's departments began noticing the pattern. Call after call came in, always with the same description. Bright, blinking lights, unmoving, sometimes in groups, sometimes alone. When deputies went to investigate, the lights were gone, mysterious, vanished. In fact, the sheriff's department in Phillips County, Colorado, was so inundated with calls that they launched an official investigation. Sheriff Bill Gibson admitted, "We have no explanation for what's going on here. We're not ruling anything out." The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, was contacted. Their response? Cryptic. "We're aware of the reports and are monitoring the situation," an FAA spokesperson said. No clarification, no explanation. And it's not just here, not just the good old US of A. Reports have trickled in from overseas. Drone sightings in Germany, Japan, even as far as Australia. The same story every time. Bright lights, no sound, no movement, no clear answers. Take Japan, for instance. In the small town of Obihiro on the island of Hokkaido, fishermen reported seeing what they called white lanterns hanging in the sky. Local news station NHK picked up the story. "The lights hovered for 10 minutes, said one fisherman, and then they disappeared all at once like someone flicked off a switch. Half a world away in Germany, several rural towns saw something similar. A councilman in Baden-Württemberg said, "We've had 5 or 6 reports just this week of strange lights over the forest. Locals are concerned, and I can't say I blame them." Video footage from a resident's doorbell camera shows 3 lights in a line, blinking in and out of sync, slowly vanishing behind a wall of clouds. Australia wasn't immune either. In the outback town of Coober Pedy, where the night skies are famously clear, miners spotted an array of lights hovering over the desert. "They didn't make a sound," said miner Gavin Jensen. "You'd expect some kind of drone buzz, but there was nothing, just silence." But maybe, just maybe, it's not human hands controlling those lights at all. What if the answer is not of this earth? That's the theory that's gained the most traction online. Alien surveillance. Not flying saucers with little green men, but something more subtle. Dr. John Gaines, an astrophysicist at the University of California, Berkeley, explains the idea. If an advanced species were observing us, it's unlikely they'd land a ship on the White House lawn. Far more plausible is the use of unmanned probes. Think of our own Voyager spacecraft, but more advanced, smaller, smarter, and much harder to detect. Some theorists argue the hovering lights match descriptions of so-called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, documented by military pilots. Footage released by the Pentagon in recent years showed similar lights exhibiting flight patterns beyond human capability. Could these lights be scouts, probes sent from faraway worlds? If they are, they're doing a fine job of staying hidden, until now. But then there's one more question. If these lights are from them, then why now? Why here? The timing has not gone unnoticed. December 2024. The world's eyes are already on the skies for meteor showers and holiday spectacles. Could it be coincidence or something deliberate? "They're testing something," says Dr. Gaines. "Either it's a test of our response or an effort to observe us at a time when we're most distracted. So let's take stock of what we know, and perhaps more importantly, what we don't know." Mysterious lights have been sighted in at least 27 states in the U.S. as of mid-December 2024. Similar sightings have been reported in Japan, Germany, and Australia. The FAA, the U.S. military, and private companies have all either denied involvement or offered vague responses. So, who's flying them, and why? They say we're not alone, but it's one thing to believe it and another thing to see it for yourself. If you do, just know you're not the only one watching. An eyewitness to one of these drone events tells us about her encounter and why, well, frankly, why she is scared. Just listen.
"I'm standing here in my front yard, no wind, no distant hum of traffic, just this eerie stillness. That's when I see them, drones. At least I'm pretty sure that's what they're supposed to be. But these aren't like the ones I've seen before. They're not those little buzzing, blinking gadgets you'd see at the park on a Saturday afternoon. No, these are bigger, darker. They're too smooth, too seamless, like they're carved out of a single black piece of glass. No propellers, no blinking lights, just these slow, gliding shadows against the cloudy night sky. There's 4 of them, maybe 5. It's hard to tell because they're moving in this slow, deliberate pattern, like they're searching for something. They're completely silent, not even a whisper of sound. It's unnatural, like watching sharks circle underwater, but in the sky. My heart's pounding in my chest. I'm not the kind of person to jump to wild conclusions, but this doesn't feel right. I've seen military drones on TV. They're loud, clunky things with rotors and flashing lights. This is something else. I've heard the theories. Everyone's talking about it online. People posting blurry photos and shaky videos of strange lights in the sky. Some say it's the government testing new tech. Others think it's private companies pushing boundaries. But then there are those posts, the ones that get deleted too fast, where people whisper about things that aren't supposed to be real. I've been checking the news every day since people started reporting them, but there's nothing of substance. Not a single knowledgeable government statement. That's what's scaring me the most. It's like they're pretending it's normal. Like if they don't acknowledge it, maybe we'll all just move on. They know, they're just not telling us. One of them stops. It's just hanging there, perfectly still, directly above my house. No sound, no movement, just there like it's looking back at me. I'm not calling anyone. I'm not recording it. I'm not posting about it online. I've seen what happens to people who do. I'm not taking that chance. I don't know what's worse, that I'm scared of what's up there or that I'm scared of the silence they leave behind.
Opinions are like fingerprints. No two are exactly alike. Some brush it off as nothing, while others are downright terrified. Up next, we have a story from one of our listeners. See for yourself and decide where you stand. And hey, if you enjoy this tale, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Your support makes all the difference and keeps this channel going strong. A few years back, I worked as a security officer at Ash Hollow Wildlife Reserve in Colorado. It was a dream job, at least at first. The rugged beauty of the landscape, the crisp mountain air, and the symphony of nature's sounds all made for a perfect escape from the clamor of modern life. Every day felt like an adventure, until one night changed everything. My shifts usually started at sunset. I'd do the rounds, checking the perimeter, ensuring that no campers had wandered into restricted areas, and keeping an eye on any signs of wildlife activity that might pose a threat to visitors. On this particular night, the sky was an endless sheet of black, with no moon to guide my path. The darkness felt thicker than usual, almost oppressive. My flashlight's beam cut through it, but only just. About halfway through my patrol, I picked up on a smell, foul and unnatural. It was a sickening blend of burnt rubber and decaying meat. At first, I figured it was a dead animal nearby. But as I moved along the trail, the stench only grew stronger. I've smelled death in the wild before, it's unforgettable, but this was something else entirely. My gut tightened, an instinctive response honed by years of experience. Something was off. Then the sound stopped. No crickets, no owls, no rustling in the underbrush. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. It's the kind of quiet that's wrong in a place teeming with life. My pulse quickened. I'd been taught to respect moments like this. They usually meant a predator was nearby. But this was different. It felt like the forest itself was holding its breath. That's when I heard it. A low, steady hum. Faint at first, like distant machinery, but growing louder with each step I took. There's nothing mechanical out here, I reminded myself. No power lines, no transformers, no infrastructure of any kind. The hum wasn't just a sound, it was a vibration I could feel in my bones. It resonated through me, setting my nerves on edge. Following the sound, I came upon a clearing near the ridge. My flashlight flickered, a classic horror trope, but it's not so funny when it's happening to you. I tapped it, the light steadying just in time to reveal something I'll never forget. A cluster of trees stood before me, their bark blackened and charred in swirling, unnatural patterns. The burns were too precise to be caused by lightning, and there'd been no fires in the area. The marks spiraled up the trunks like they'd been seared with a branding iron. I'd seen fire damage before. This wasn't it. This was intentional, deliberate. That's when I saw them. At first, I thought it was a trick of the shadows. Then one of the figures moved. 3 of them, no 4, stood at the edge of the clearing just beyond the tree line. They were humanoid, but not human. Each figure was unnervingly tall and thin, their silhouettes stretched unnaturally long under the flickering glow of my flashlight. Their eyes, if you can call them eyes, were large, pitch-black ovals that caught the light like polished onyx. No mouths, no noses, just those eyes staring straight at me. I'd like to think I'm brave, but bravery didn't stand a chance against primal terror. I froze. My heart slammed against my ribs, my breath caught in my throat. Every survival instinct I'd ever had was telling me to run, but I couldn't move. It was like being caught in the gaze of a predator, knowing you're already too late to escape. Then one of them tilted its head, just a slight bird-like tilt as if studying me. The hum grew louder, sharper, like it was coming from them. I'd seen documentaries on predators that mimic sounds to lure prey. But this was no mimicry. This was control. They were doing something to me with that sound. My vision blurred at the edges, and a wave of nausea rolled over me. It wasn't just a sound, it was a force. Panic finally broke through the fog of terror, and I spun on my heel, sprinting back the way I'd come. I'd never run so fast in my life. Every step felt like it took an eternity, the forest seeming to stretch on forever. The hum didn't fade. It followed me, a low, pulsating thrum that crawled under my skin. My flashlight's beam bounced wildly, casting erratic shadows that looked too much like the figures behind me. I didn't dare glance back. By the time I reached the ranger station, I'd lost track of how long I'd been running. My lungs burned, my legs shook, and my heart felt like it might give out. I slammed the door behind me, locking it with trembling hands. My radio sat on the counter, but I didn't call for help. What could I say? Hey, I'm being chased by 4 shadow people from the X-Files? No one would believe me. The rest of the night, I sat in the corner of that station, flashlight clutched in my hands, eyes locked on the window. I didn't sleep, I didn't even blink. Every creak of the old wooden structure made me jump. I kept waiting for that hum to return, for those eyes to reappear in the darkness outside. I'd love to tell you that's where it ended, that I went back to work the next day and life carried on as normal, but that's not what happened. I quit 2 weeks later. Not because I'm a coward, but because something changed in me. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see those figures. Every quiet moment, I'd hear that hum. It's like it's still inside me, an echo that refuses to fade. I've spoken to other rangers since then. None of them had stories like mine, at least none they'd admit to. But once at a bar just outside of Ash Hollow, an older ranger told me about the Watchers. He said it like a joke, but his eyes didn't match his smile. They've been here longer than us, he'd said, taking a long pull from his beer. They're just better at hiding. I'm not here to convince you of anything. Believe me or don't, it's your choice. But I'll tell you this, if you're ever out in the woods and everything goes quiet, if you smell something you can't quite place, and if you hear that low electric hum, don't investigate. Don't be like me. Turn around, walk away. Because some things out there aren't meant to be understood. They're just meant to be feared. My dear watchers, your presence is a gift. Thank you for your time, your curiosity, your courage. But remember, there are others who wander, unaware of the dangers that await. By liking this video and subscribing, you offer them a light in the darkness. Support our channel and keep the stories coming, simply by giving a thumbs up and subscribing and sharing.